All right, welcome back to Power Lunch. Big week for a pair of drug makers. Bristol-Myers out with quarterlies this morning. They topped estimates as its portfolio of newer drugs posted strong sales growth. And Merck's results yesterday also beat expectations as demand was strong for its blockbuster cancer drug Keytruda, I believe is the name. Let's get some reaction to that and a few other medical topics that caught our attention this week with Dr. Scott Gottlieb, former commissioner of the FDA and CNBC contributor, and Sarat Sethi is with us as well. Dr. Gottlieb, welcome. Good to have you back, as always. I'm not going to ask you about to criticize or characterize the results of BMY and Merck, but I am going to ask you about their pipelines as an observer, and we should point out that you're a member of the board of Pfizer. But Bristol-Myers and Merck, what do you see in their pipeline? Are they in danger of patent cliffs?
Well, look, there's going to be loss of exclusivity across the portfolios of both companies and across the industry more generally. I think what you're seeing is strong growth of some of the newer products, the inline products. In the case of Bristol-Myers, a drug for anemia, another drug for melanoma. Bristol-Myers has a lot of strong drugs in its pipeline, many of which it acquired in the Celgene acquisition. They got a broad portfolio of protein degradators that looks very promising, a number of in late-stage clinical trials, as well as the cell therapies, the CAR T therapies that they acquired from Celgene as part of Celgene's previous acquisition of Juno. So I think that pipeline is full of a lot of very promising products that's going to continue to power strong growth. And, the other thing that's happening is a lot of the headwinds that we perceived from the commercial marketplace, from the PBMs putting downward pressure on pricing as well as sales, and the inability of the drug companies to take the same kinds of price increases they've taken in the past as a result of commercial pressures as well as new legislation. I think a lot of that's flowed through. And now what you're seeing is just that the clinical offerings, the proposition of promise that these drugs are offering patients is so compelling that it's driving continued growth.
Let's talk a little bit about the weight loss drugs and the coverage by insurance companies or state programs of these medicines. Earlier this week, North Carolina said that they are going to stop covering weight loss drugs for state employees. Do you think more states are going to follow suit here and deny coverage, or are these drugs likely to get approved for a broader array of conditions, whether it's cardiovascular disease, kidney disease, and other things, sleep apnea, that may mean that the insurers have no choice but to cover them?
Look, I think as these drugs continue to show profound benefit in weight-associated morbidities like cardiovascular disease, there's going to be data coming out from Lilly on their drug Zepbound in the first half of this year, looking at sleep apnea, looking at these drugs in the treatment of heart failure as well. There's studies underway looking at chronic kidney disease, dementia. As these drugs start to show benefits, substantial benefits, I believe, in weight-related conditions, I think it's going to be very compelling. And I think insurers will feel compelled to cover them. The data coming out of the SELECT trial that Novo did looking at Wegovy in the reduction of cardiovascular risk and death in patients who are at high risk, who had previous strokes and heart attacks, and who are well treated with existing medications, showing a 20% reduction in cardiovascular risk. That was really a profound finding, and I suspect we're going to see equally profound finding in some of these other conditions. And remember, the benefits that we saw in that trial and the benefits that we're going to see in some of these others, I believe, and also the impact on productivity improvement on individuals is going to provide a very near-term return, particularly for employers looking at covering these drugs and employer-sponsored plans. If you're a large employer and you can get your employees who are overweight under control and they show a profound weight reduction, that's going to be an immediate impact on the productivity of that employer. And I think that there's going to be a very economically compelling reason to want to expand use of these drugs. So if, in fact, these companies, Lilly and Novo, have to go sort of indication by indication and expand the labels to get some of these indications on the label. On the cardiovascular, the SELECT trial is going to probably get in the label in the first half of this year. FDA and EMA are now reviewing those. I think even if they have to do that in order to drive utilization and drive coverage, that's still going to be, I think, a very big opportunity for them and for patients and public health.
We're certainly going to continue to talk about these weight loss drugs for many, many months and probably years here to come. But I do want to move on to a very different topic, Neuralink, which is Elon Musk's sort of startup company. It's this brain implant. It seems to have a lot of promise. The first chip has been implanted in a human, according to Musk. I mean, what can we realistically expect from something like this? What innovations do you anticipate, and how long will it take for us to really get some data about this?
Yeah, well, we have data right now. I mean, I think it's in the early innings of these kinds of technologies. We've had technologies that provide neurostimulation to the brain to try to provide certain therapeutic effects in patients, for example, in migraine or dystonia, with a lot of promise. Now what we're doing is able to implant these sensors that measure electrical impulses to try to drive function in patients who've lost function. In this case, they're experimenting, they're doing these experiments, these trials in patients who've been paralyzed, trying to read neural feedback from the brain, electrical stimulation provided by the brain, and correlate it with intended function, the intention of patients to carry out certain functions. And a lot of the technology here isn't just the electrode itself, but the machine learning, the artificial intelligence that sits on top of this. And as we get more experience reading the electrical output of brains and correlating it with what the patient's intended function was, and the software gets better for driving certain tools that you can actually drive with your intention, with thinking about things, and then that translating into electrical impulses. I think that these capabilities are going to get better and better, and it's going to be software-driven, not just hardware-driven, but software-driven. And that could advance very quickly. And you can envision down the road being able to couple some of these devices that measure electrical stimulation with things like imaging devices, PET sensory devices, things that look at brain function on a different level. And you can get some very exciting possibilities. I would prefer if Neuralink was a little bit more forthcoming in some of the medical literature. Elon Musk has put out some tweets and described the trial and indicated that a patient has been enrolled. But I think that they should be more communicative with the medical community as well, because there's a lot of excitement in the medical community about the potential of these products.